Hello, welcome to Essential Living with Pilar. Tonight we're doing a show about energy healing, specifically Reiki, because that is what I am knowledgeable mostly for. And so we're going to just briefly and basically discuss what Reiki is and how it is received and how it is given generally. For more details, of course, I'll let you know how to ask me about that if you want. But welcome. Essential Living with Pilar, for those that have seen it before, is basically a show about all things holistic to make the planet a better place to live in. The planet, there's nothing wrong with the planet, it's what we make it. So how to make life better for the planet by making life better for ourselves. So Reiki is one method of energy healing, and to briefly give you a background, it is originally an ancient Tibetan healing art. It had actually been forgotten a bit, gone dormant, if you will, for lack of use, because other things came into play, and as usual, some things just kind of get put aside. And then a certain Buddhist monk called Mikao Usui, a Japanese gentleman, came across some of the scripts and of the texts and decided to bring it, explore it, and as he began to study it, he got a lot of insight and decided to bring it back into use. For simple terms, this is a picture of my sensei and my teacher, Mikao Usui, whom I still talk to and connect to on a spiritual level, because he did so much for this beautiful healing art, and he still is at a different plane of existence. So one of the things about Reiki that is magnificent is that it is connecting to the all-wise universal life force that has all healing properties. It's all-wise, it is all-pervading, is the ethereal part of healing that can be channeled by somebody that has been attuned to Reiki. So it can be given as a treatment in person, in real time, which we're going to demonstrate a little bit today, but it also can be sent long distance. So it can transcend time, space, and location. So past, present, future, as well as from here to across the room, from here to across the globe. So, but that's just general information. For our purposes today, we're going to just bring it to the more practical hands-on level. So literally means hands-on. Reiki is a hands-on healing modality. It became more of a practice in the early 20th century when Dr. Usui's descendant, as far as not his child, but as his practice descendant, Dr. Hayashi, his name was. He was a Japanese doctor during the war. He created a system, more of a practical system, and he had a magnificent clinic in Japan where people came from everywhere to receive Reiki treatments. The practice came to be very well known and very sought after, and they had a school where he attuned other people to become Reiki practitioners to keep broadening the practice more and more. Eventually, it came into the Western world by one of those students, Hawayo Takada, a Japanese descendant American that lived in Hawaii. So that's just the general history of it. But this system that was created by those three people was done in a very specific way, and they taught how to give a treatment in a very specific way. These days, unfortunately, in my opinion, it has been bastardized quite a bit because people want to add bells and whistles to Reiki, which doesn't need any bells and whistles, as well as mixing it with other modalities. But then by then I'm what is called a traditional Reiki master, because I stick to the plan. Because it's like learning a language. You know, you have to learn it properly so you can embellish on the language a little, but the foundation has to be solid. And anyway, so with that said, hands-on healing. Basically, a student gets attuned to become a Reiki practitioner by a Reiki master. And it is done in a certain way. It is what you can call a ceremony. And it works on the chakric system of the recipient to open up the channel, if you will, to kind of unlock the vehicle, the way to receive the energy and pass it on. So basically, the practitioner becomes a hose. It is not my energy that I'm passing on to my lovely recipient here, my friend Dan, who is so kind to donate himself. Are you comfortable? Oh, yeah. Yes? Okay, good. So he's just kind enough to let me show you how basically Reiki treatment ought to be handled properly for the comfort of the receiver, as well as for the practicality of the person giving the treatment. Reiki comes through the hands. Basically, to start with, an initial practitioner, somebody that's new, a Reiki 1, level 1, will be able to channel the Reiki energy through the palm of the hand, sort of like right here, that radius. And so hands-on is ideal. Now, traditionally, you ought to be able to touch the person that is receiving Reiki, if that person is comfortable with touch. Are you comfortable with touch? Okay. In this country, unfortunately, we have a very litigious culture, so that you need to really ask and be mindful of the recipient to make sure that it's okay. Now, that said, it is important to keep very strong boundaries with addressing somebody physically, especially touching. So you want to make sure to be in integrity about how to manage passing the energy on for the treatment, especially during in certain areas of the body. So there are ways to do that. Now, that caveat and the handy part of that is that it is not necessarily to literally touch. It is ideal in certain cases. However, hovering over a certain area is just as effective. And in fact, sometimes even more so, because our energy extends far beyond the actual encasement of our physical body. So our aura extends very far above and beyond our physical body. So even if, as I hold my arms out this way, my aura would extend far beyond. So if I stand here over here in front of this beautiful little background that I have, you know, I could say that this is my auric egg. And so that would be a boundary, energetic boundary of anyone approximately. So that's something to keep in mind. So you want to make the person, ideally you can give a Reiki treatment anywhere. You can give it on a chair, really anywhere. But ideally, the wonderful thing is to be on a massage bed like this. The person is fully clothed with comfortable, loose-fitting clothing. Nothing restrictive is better that way. Socks if the feet may get cold. Covered comfortably. I don't know if you can notice that I've tucked the blanket underneath his arms so his arms are not hanging over the sides of the bed, which can be distracting to the recipient. He nods in agreement, especially if it's a larger person, a tall, bigger person that may be just filling up the whole size of the bed. You want to make sure to make them comfortable. Another way is to have them tuck their thumbs into the waist of whatever they're wearing, and that way they don't feel like they have to be conscious of holding their arms in place. How one begins to really approach the person is you scan. Basically, what scanning means is you get a feel, and you do get a sensitivity in your hands. And if you're an energy healer by nature, you do get a sense of people's vibe. You know, you sense heat, you sense cold, certain things. So you scan the person to see if you feel any variation of those changes. So from the feet, beyond the feet, up, you kind of just feel to see if there's anything you feel. You may not feel anything at all, but you can go over and beyond the head, and then just maybe sense some areas that you may want to spend more time working on. You could always, of course, ask the person if there's anything particularly that they would like more attention on. The other thing about that scanning is that you really prepare, you sort of comb the energy field of the person, so it balances it out a little bit more, calming any discrepancy, any stress that may be there from before. One thing that it is recommended for anybody that is practicing learning how to give a table treatment to someone, and by the way, it can be on the floor. If you don't have a table, you can put cushions on the floor, is you don't want to go in front of the feet. Energy is released and detoxified through the soles of the feet. So I would, just kind of keep that in mind, that you always want to work around the body and not be meandering around back and forth through the feet. If you do feel like you have to be around the feet, maybe use some sort of a protective stone, like an obsidian or onyx or jet, that kind of deflects whatever is coming through. So we obviously don't have the luxury of having the whole time to give Dan a full-on treatment, but here's what I would say. You basically want to make some contact with the person, and the one thing you want to do and not miss out is work on this in the center of the solar plexus or the torso of the body and the head, if you have no time to do more than that. Also, be mindful to not be jerky in your movements. So I'm going to put my hand on Dan's solar plexus. Is that okay? And when you put your hand on someone, you have to be very mindful of your own body movements. So if I'm going to shift my weight, I want to take my hand off of him and not make him uncomfortable. So I don't want to be sitting with my hands on him and scratching my nose or anything like that. Always be very mindful of what the person on the table is receiving. Oh, this reminds me. It is best not to wear a whole lot of rings. So I'm going to take them off because metal kind of interrupts the flow. And the less you have hanging around. Also be mindful of dangling sleeves, dangling jewelry, dangling hair, and breath. You don't want to eat a garlic bread loaf and then come and give somebody a Reiki treatment. So just general things like that. When you are, I'll start over here, because these are the things that kind of tend to trip people up. When you are touching somebody's head, you want to make sure not to jerk them around too much. I'm going to turn your head a little bit. You turn it this way, put your hand under, lift it up, and put it underneath without jerking the head around. You don't want to be bouncing, the person's head around. Is that okay? Was that okay? And I'm just going to do this much for him because this is a good position that gives a lot of energy to the person receiving the energy, because obviously the brain is residing here. The stem of the brain is, on the alongside of the base of the neck. The optic nerve is closer to the back of the head. And so this is a good place to spend a little bit of extra time on. So again, for a quick treatment, work on the head, work on the torso. And for the practical purposes of this demonstration, of course, we have some strong bright lights on, but ideally you want to have dimmer lights, and sometimes even cover the person's eyes with a little bit of a cloth or something that they can just relax. And if they fall asleep while you're giving them a treatment, that's a compliment, because they trust you enough to relax and let go. Okay, so it's the same. It's almost like I don't ride horses, but I would imagine getting on the horse and getting off the horse is just as important as getting on the horse. So putting your hands under the head is great, but you don't want to yank them out and have the head plop. So in this case, when you're here, you don't want to disrupt the person. I'm glad you're laughing. And it's easy to just slide the hands out. And since they're already here, you can just put your hands on the ears and just spend a couple of minutes there. When you remove your hands from someone, you don't want to remove them slowly and just kind of stroke the person, because that can be misconstrued as inappropriate, so you don't want to do that. So you want to just remove them. Just general tips on minding your touch, because touch can be misconstrued, especially by people that have had issues of abuse and such things. You want to be mindful of their comfort zone, especially they agree to let you actually place your hands on them. Since we are making the most out of this time, heart chakra and solar plexus. This kind of takes care of very much the important, the ruling areas of the body, where everything connects to. You okay there? Okay. When you're feeling your hands on top of someone's, any area, especially in the abdominal area, you may hear gurgling. But it's normal, because the energy is moving. You're moving energy, so that might produce obviously some sensation that is noticeable. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong. On the contrary, it's just the body is just working with the energy. One other important thing, as a Reiki practitioner, you are not directing the energy. It's not about you. It's just about being a good channel. So it's like being a good hose, so the water flows through and you get the most out of the flow. So in a way, it's a very impersonal thing, because the ego can't get involved. I'm not doing anything. I'm just being the conductor, just offering myself as being the funnel, if you will. So the body of the recipient and the soul of the recipient will know exactly where this healing is necessary. Even if, for example, if I don't touch his feet, but he has a sore ankle, this energy will know to direct itself toward the area where it's needed. So it's sort of like an adaptogen. It goes to where it needs to go without needing any particular direction. Are you doing okay? Okay. Again, when you remove the hands, you lift them up. You don't, because you want to make sure that, if the person is relaxed and asleep, you don't want to be jumbling them. You want to make sure that they're relaxed and they are not interrupted by any certain movements. I would always go ahead and put my hands on the side here, because here's the liver and the spleen, both of which can always use a little bit of energy. And just leave the hands there for a few minutes. As I do that, so he can get the benefit of a little bit of a treatment, I'll talk a little bit about, if for anybody that's interested in becoming a Reiki practitioner, here's what I would suggest. Do the research and find a good Reiki master. Find somebody that you can ask about where they got their education from, where they got their attunement from. I would definitely, of course, always recommend a traditional Usui Reiki master, specifically using that terminology. I think that is the best bang for your buck, if you will. There are many. I'm going to change my hands for a moment, and I'm going to go back to your heart. Now, normally there would be a sequence from head to toe, literally, and then the person can turn over and we can work on the back. But because of this particular demonstration, I'm just going to give him what I think he might make the most out of. So I'm going to work on your heart and lungs. Is that all right? Okay. So yes, find somebody that has a good way to explain to you where they got their own training, and make sure that you feel comfortable with learning from them and being attuned by them. I would not ever advocate any of the many opportunities online, because I just don't get that. With all due respect, Reiki is not a drive-through type of education that you can get on an online course. You just can't. You really have to learn from somebody that knows, somebody that is respectful of this healing art and has maintained its tradition as it was intended to be maintained. So do yourself that favor and do your research, and make sure you find somebody you want to work with. If you have questions about that, please feel free to contact me, email me. I can give you some more information. My email is, you can email me at pilar@goldenagetimes.org if you have questions, and I'd be happy to answer them promptly and guide you in the right direction. But it is a very precious healing art. I think it should be preserved. I think a lot of people kind of cheapen it by just going off into wanting to just do a quickie and learn fast, and boom, 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 you're a Reiki master, and that's not how it should work. You should take the time to really integrate it, because when you become attuned to Reiki, you become it. You really embody it. So that is something that you want to hold sacred, be respectful of, and be reverent of. I mean, after all, this is something that you can use for yourself, your family, your loved ones, everything in your life. So you are your own healer. You become your own healer. And the good news is you don't need anything else. You can take it anywhere. It's in your hands. It's in your body. You are it. So I always thought when I first came on to this practice that if everything else was to go away, this would never go away, because it's always with me. So it's definitely a good feather in your hat and a good tool in your tool belt to have to take care of yourself and your world and your life and your loved ones. So I'm going to take my hands off of Dan. Normally when you're completed giving somebody a treatment, you want to disconnect from their energy and close their the auric field that you've been into. So you want to give them that respect. And again, you can scoop up as you did before. You're sort of closing, like wrapping them up like a gift. And you disconnect. You can shake your hands a little bit. You're not shaking them off. You're just disconnecting. That's all that means. I'm not shaking him off, whatever, came from him, because I don't absorb his energy. He doesn't absorb mine. This is literally between him and his spirit and the energy of Reiki. So that is what's good about it. It's not a personal thing. It's something that the person receiving it gets to absorb as much as they want, as much as they need, but it's not a conscious choice. It's, the mind needs to get out of the way and let the spirit do its thing. And that's the intangible magic of Reiki. So that's basically all there is to that. Reiki is simple. It's just literally a loving touch, but it's impersonal. So it's just something to just pass on and accept it or reject it. It's just a gift. The other thing that we can do to really close the aura, I love tinger bells, so I'm going to use some tinger bells on Dan and just close his aura for real. And here we go. Again, you scoop it up. Pass it over his head, and I'm just going to let him listen to the sound of the bell. As it fades away.
I love that sound.
It is lovely, isn't it? One thing you also want to do once you receive a Reiki treatment or you give a Reiki treatment, make sure the person recommend that they drink a lot of water afterward, because it is detoxifying, so they want to keep that going. And they will notice that this feeling of relaxation will linger for quite a bit of time after the treatment is over, oftentimes for a couple of days. So it's something that they may feel that things just feel better, they feel more relaxed, sleep a little better, just general ease and peace. So for more information, we're going to be doing more exploration into energy healing in our next episode, but this is just an introductory taste, and maybe you'll donate yourself some more in the future for another episode so we can expand more on it, because this is just a generality. We're going to go into more detail next time about it, because Reiki is very special to me, so I want to describe it to you. So if you go shopping to become a Reiki practitioner, you make sure you know what you're getting, and you get the best thing you can get to make the most of it. So on that note, literally, we're going to conclude this particular episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I did, and hopefully you did too. And perhaps if you're willing to donate yourself to me, to this again, we can actually do a little bit more of a specific working on certain things and how to do that. And we'll do it a little differently so you get a feel of it all. On that note, love you and thank you. And read about Reiki. Look up Mikao Usui. USUI. I should have put it on for your information, but I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. USUI. And look into him, and we'll go into more details next time. Good night, and namaste. That's all I have to say about that.